convene our Board of Education work session. Our first topic for today's discussion is an update on Senate Bill 579, the Lighthouse Math Project. Welcome.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity, board members, to provide an update on what could be and what we are hopeful and optimistic will become a program initiative within the Wake County Public School System in partnership with Wake Tech Community College. SB 579 has a component in it titled the Lighthouse Math Project, which is really designed to prepare students for college-level math readiness, both after they graduate from high school, but also maybe just as importantly, making sure we're providing opportunities through dual enrollment for college readiness while they're in high school. This bill is currently in the Education Committee and has received bipartisan support for the concept and the bill itself. It's also a part of the Senate version of the budget. Additional work through the legislative process is currently ongoing. We are optimistic, based on the information and updates that we're receiving, to hear back by June about this potentially moving forward. In the meantime, we felt like it was important to provide the board with an overview of this initiative while it's still in its infancy stages, and obviously we will certainly keep you and our participating schools posted as we learn more in the weeks and months ahead. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Kendra King, who will provide a quick overview of this initiative and what the potential is for future opportunity for our students in Wake County.
Well, thank you, Mr. Cook, and good afternoon, everyone. It's always a pleasure to join you. And today, as Mr. Cook said, we were going to do an overview of the Lighthouse Math Project. Our goal today, or our goals, really is to ensure there is a clear understanding of the Lighthouse Math Project and its implications, particularly how it supports student success and what our next steps are or should be as a school district. The Lighthouse Math Project is a powerful example of how we are advancing our district's strategic priorities through innovative partnerships and technology-driven solutions. It strengthens our instructional core by integrating Conmigo, which is a tech-based tutoring tool that supports rigorous and inclusive math learning. It uses performance data to guide instruction and to expand access to college-level math. By providing personalized support, the project builds students' academic confidence and their sense of belonging. It helps reduce barriers in pursuit of professions in high-demand fields like STEM. This partnership leverages shared resources between us, Wake County Public Schools, Wake Tech, and Khan Academy, and this ensures sustainability without adding staffing needs. Now for a more detailed overview. Created under Senate Bill 579, the Lighthouse Project is designed to improve math readiness and post-secondary pathways for high school students. This pilot brings together a partnership between us and Wake Tech Community College and Khan Academy, demonstrating the impact of cross-sector collaboration in education. The project centers on East Wake High School and Knightdale High School, where students will gain access to Conmigo. This AI-powered platform from Khan Academy offers real-time, personalized math support, providing a scalable solution to boost student achievement. In addition to AI tutoring, our students will also have opportunities for dual enrollment coursework through Wake Tech, allowing them to earn college credit while still in high school. At its core, the Lighthouse Math Project is not just about improving math scores. It's about reimagining what's possible when sectors unite to support student success. Many students graduate from high school unprepared for college-level math, creating significant barriers to their success in both higher education and future careers. The Lighthouse Math Project is designed to eliminate those barriers through targeted, accelerated support that helps students build the skills and confidence they need to succeed. This initiative focuses on increasing the number of high school graduates who are eligible for college-level math by expanding access to high-impact learning opportunities. Through the combination of dual enrollment while in high school and continued support into students' first year of college, the project ensures a seamless transition from high school to post-secondary math coursework. By addressing readiness early and providing structured pathways to completion, this project not only supports academic achievement, but also broadens long-term opportunities for students, unlocking access to degrees, careers, and the future they envision. The Lighthouse Math Project offers a layered approach to increasing college math readiness. Students participating in the project beginning at East Wake High School and Knightdale High Schools will benefit and continue being supported through their transition to Wake Tech East. The consistent resource of Khan Amigo will help the students engage more deeply with math content and build those skills necessary for college. I think my mouse wasn't working in conjunction with I pressed it, but my apologies for that. So we're actually on the project timeline now. See, I'm pressing. It's not going. Are you all okay? Oh, there we go. So we're on the projected timeline. Our work begins in summer 2025 with planning, curriculum alignment, and building out the project structure. Fall and winter will focus on training educators, engaging families, and setting up systems for dual enrollment and student support. By spring 2026, we'll be finalizing logistics, enrolling students, and preparing for a smooth launch. The full program launches in 2026-2027 school year with ongoing support, monitoring, mid-year reviews, and just making sure that we're able to look for and guide for improvement. And it looks like I can see all of your faces and the screen. I didn't know. I only can read with these glasses. There we go. All right, so potential impact. The Lighthouse Math Project is more than a pilot. It is a strategic investment in student success with the potential for statewide impact. By increasing support for math readiness and strengthening the transition from high school to college, the project aims to achieve higher rates of math course completion in college, reduce the need for remediation, and build stronger alignment with STEM and career pathways. If successful, the Lighthouse Project could serve as a scalable model for other districts across the state, demonstrating how coordinated efforts between K-12, higher education, and innovative partners can reshape readiness and outcomes for all our students. So at this time, I do thank you so far for your attention and would love to open it up for questions.
All right, thank you. Are there questions? Dr. Ed?
Now I can see you all.
I'll take mine off. So thank you so much. I'm new to this Senate bill, but in terms of the cost of implementing this, and it is a pilot project, I believe, right? So what would be the cost to us versus, and how it, if it were successful, how it would be sustained? And then are there any kind of conflicts of interest in terms of this Khan Academy? I'm not familiar with it.
So right now, the bill it is multi-layer, like Mr. Cook discussed, but the part for the Lighthouse Project is $1.5 million. It does look like it will be able to be part of the budget, so it would be reoccurring. We do have to, we're in the very infancy stages of this, so I have actually my first planning of the agenda meeting with Wake Tech yesterday, but we will have to outline and make sure that there are no other costs and how we would divide that up. Right now, we don't believe so, but is at the very beginning. There's always surprises and unanticipated barriers that could come up.
And Mr. Ing, that would be, according to the bill as it's drafted, about $500,000 for the school system, about $1 million for the community college system, primarily to fund positions at those two participating high schools to support program implementation.
And just to follow up, again, I just wasn't sure about the Khan Academy. You can give me some more context?
Yes, so I do not anticipate conflict of interest, but what I know about Khan Academy exists right now. It is accessible to the public where you could go in and you can take classes or in areas that you want to have increased knowledge in. With the actual tool of Conmigo, I actually have not had the opportunity to actually see the workings of it, but it reminds me of how I use ChatGPT now. When there's a statement or a problem, there's a schedule, I need to come up with an interview schedule. I was like, here's my problem. I was able to put it in, and it gives me different scenarios of how to understand or be able to duplicate for myself what that outcome is that I'm aiming for.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And Dr. Ing, I'll tell you that I know some schools use Khan Academy right now
They do.
for enrichment or other work, so some students and families already have some familiarity with it. All right, we have a lot of people. There's questions. We'll go to Ms. Mahaffey, then Ms. Gordon.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you, Dr. King. This is exciting. I know a lot of schools use Khan Academy. How does that go, or how do you see that being implemented at these schools when there's, and what's the, I know Dreambox is also at the high school level, so what are teachers going to be asked to use primarily? How is that going to look for students? I know sometimes those Dreambox lessons can be graded. Is that something that we're anticipating? And what's the alignment with standards? That's a lot, so
That's okay.
take it in any order you'd like.
So we will have our math experts on the team with us, meaning like our content leads. Sonia Dupree is one of those content leads. We also have our elementary math content lead here. The piece that we're starting to think about, Dreambox and Khan Academy are separate. Also, we are going to have to look at making sure for the particular courses that are being covered, Math 171, the pre-calculus and algebra course, making sure that we're able to align it to where students are going in and to where they need to be. The Khan Academy, Khan Amigo will fill in those gaps that students have, one part of it, but the teachers are actually going to be East Wake Tech instructors. And we talked about the professional development that would occur. So they would get so our lens will make sure that the math content is aligned to what the state says that our high school students need, and looking at what they're going to need to be successful. So we have those experts at the table. And then we also are making sure that the teachers, the instructors from the college are going to have the training. So it would not be like our Wake County Public School math teachers having additional information or programs to learn for the year after the next.
Well, that was my follow-up question, so I'm good.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mahaffey. Ms. Gordon.
Thank you. I have a quick question. How were the two schools selected?
So very good question. These were conversations that have just been coming up with the eastern part of our county. There's a great deal of growth that is not only happening all over, but we know in the Knightdale area. One of the pieces when you're thinking about college and career readiness, we think about what careers are existing and what companies are saying and asking for. And they're saying they want more of our citizens or our students becoming adult citizens, right, being prepared to take on those jobs. So with those two pieces, we also know that East Wake Community College being there was just a great opportunity for them to join in this partnership. So those really are the thinking of how those two schools were landed on.
So was it proximity, like to the
campus.
Campus?
Pretty much proximity and thinking about I shouldn't use the precedent when you're thinking about having instructors in the school. We know when you're thinking about the career academies that we already have, and I believe it's Malone. What is it? The first
Malone.
Yes, already has that as a precedent. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I will add, Ms. Gordon, that this is a situation too where there was already some work that was happening within Wake
Okay.
County. We had been working, I think, going back to the fall with Wake Tech about their new Wake Tech East campus. We keep juxtaposing East Wake and Wake Tech East.
That's hard.
Right, so we were already having some conversations with them about the connection geographically with Wake Tech East and specifically about college readiness. And I think, at some point, Dr. Rawls had a conversation with Dr. Taylor, and then we got wind of some legislative energy around this same project. And so that, in addition to just database need and geography, it's kind of a accumulation of circumstances that led to this actually becoming a bill in the General Assembly.
Dr. Robinson, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to add a little bit more context that one of the things that we were going to bring to the board, and we're going to bring it in the fall, is about the Spark and C Lab. And what the Spark and C Lab work is, was a partnership that was put together approximately a year and a half ago. And so the two schools that are identified are heavily involved in the Spark and C Lab, in which Dr. Leanne Keith is leading that work. And Lynn Moody, who is spearheading this with them as well, was a part of the inaugural aspect of what that work looked like. So you're going to hear more about it.
Okay.
And so as you're listening to this, when you hear that presentation as well, you'll be able to couple them together and you can see the bridge that was created for those two schools to be involved in that process.
Thank you.
We'll come around the table. Ms. Caulfield and Ms. Evans.
I just wanted to be clear, is this, because you're saying it's a Senate bill, is this like the dual enrollment program, like the students are leaving in campus and going to college, correct?
That's
They will not leave the campus. The classes will be at their schools.
Okay, so it is at the high school?
Yes.
Okay, so that was going to answer my next question. Thank you. That's
You're
it.
welcome.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Ms. Evans.
Yeah, I just appreciate the clarification about how the schools were chosen, because I did not realize that the legislation, that we were as involved in the proposal as it seemed to be. So that, I really appreciate that. And I just, if anybody else disagrees, but I want to make a comment that this seems to fly directly in the face of legislation, House Bill 415, that is trying to eliminate Math 3 as a requirement for graduation. I'm struggling to find how these are comparable at all or compatible, at least with regard to intent and support for public education. So that's just an editorial comment. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Evans. Are there any other questions for Dr. King or staff? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda will be the Infinite Campus implementation update. All right, welcome.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity, board members and Dr. Taylor, to give you and provide updates and statuses on the Infinite Campus implementation. I am Jeff Alford. I am with Technology Services, and with me today,
I'm Michaela Cross. I'm the project manager from Tech Services.
And I'm Sandy Honeycutt, Director of Student Information Systems.
now the three of us, we work out of Technology Services, but this certainly is a district-wide implementation. We're all in. And I just found out 2 minutes ago, Leanne and I are related. Just 2 minutes ago, just found that out. You never know what's going to happen at a board work session. So our agenda
See you at the
today.
reunion.
I'm sorry?
She'll see you at the reunion.
So our agenda today, we're going to give you and provide a project history and background over the modules and functionality, project management updates, technical updates, the communications plan, training plan, the support plan, the next steps, and we will certainly take questions as well. So this is a state initiative. It stems from legislation to modernize the core SIS for the state of North Carolina. And the State Board of Education voted a new contract, or awarded a new contract to Infinite Campus November 2023. With that, there was an opt-in option, and 120 PSUs consisting of a lot of public school districts and charter schools were included in Phase 1, and they launched July of 24-25 school year. Wake County, we are part of Phase 2, and we will be implemented at the beginning of July 1st, 25-26 school year.
I'm going to talk a little bit with you today about the offerings that we have with Infinite Campus, as well as our status where we're at and plans we have going forward. The contract that DPI signed with Infinite Campus actually offered 11 different modules that are available to the PSUs across the state. We will be implementing 3 of those in July 2025. The Infinite Campus Student Information System, which is the core student information system that tracks and monitors our student information across the district and provides state reporting, as well as some federal reporting. Our campus online registration, which we have been using currently in a scaled-down model. We will implement it to its fullest potential starting in July. And Campus Passport, which is their online learning site that Infinite Campus uses to provide educational materials to districts across the country that are using their product. What you see there in gray are additional modules that we plan to evaluate once we have gone live in the product, to take a look at and see if we have the potential of utilizing any of the remaining modules. Just a little bit about the core student information system and what that actually means, what the makeup of that product is. It does house the grade book, which the teachers will use to enter grades and produce reports and interims for families. Attendance, which the teachers will record, updated by the schools, and then, of course, any reporting that we need around that. School enrollment, a student and parent portal is also available. Class rosters and scheduling. That information is often shared out with other third-party information systems that we use for assessments and things like that. One thing that's a little bit new verbiage for this system is households. That is the information around the address for that student and the contacts, the parents, the guardians, emergency contact information. State and federal reporting. There is quite a few reports that we are required to present to the Department of Public Instruction. Our principal's monthly report is a good example of that has to be reported every 20 days during the school year. Course management is part of this. And new for this particular implementation of the student information system, we will be housing discipline data here as well.
Thank you, Sandy. So from the PMO, as Jeff mentioned, the project management office does live within Tech Services. However, this is a district-wide initiative, and we've collaborated with partners throughout the entire district. So you'll see I've created a matrix for you. The tech team meets on Mondays every week. We talk through our hands in the dirt, on the ground work every single week. We do have a couple partners from a couple technical partners from other departments and divisions outside of technology, but that is mainly our technical meetings. We also meet bi-weekly with a cross-functional team. This has partners from communications, from academics, student support services, student assignment, data research and accountability, and then a couple one-offs across the district, OPL, really covering all of our bases, driving our decision-making, driving how we're communicating, when we're communicating, and to who. And then finally, we have our steering committee that meets monthly, and this group really works to drive some of the decision-making processes that we're stuck on, things that need a higher level scope to drive decision-making. As far as the project goes, the project management office believes this project is on track. There are no concerns about the scope or the timeline of our implementation. With that being said, we're quickly approaching the date, and we are about 65% of the way done. There is a lot of work that will take place in the couple days between the last day of traditional school and when we go live with Infinite Campus. So it seems like we're creeping, but we've been working for quite a bit of time, and there will be a lot of work that happens, over the course of 3 to 5 days at the end of June. As far as a couple of risks, I will let Sandy address some resolution that we've gotten within the last couple of days. But we did have 2 trial conversions in which there was not a ton of scheduling data. And Sandy, if you want to talk a bit about the resolution.
Sure. As Michaela mentioned, we didn't have a lot of scheduling data for 25-26 when we were doing our trials. And we'll speak to that, to our trials, just a little bit on another slide. But as Jeff mentioned, we had approximately 120 PSUs who went live in 2024. We have the grace of learning from those PSUs. We have 2 trials of our data. We've had the opportunity to have our data input into Infinite Campus to take a look at the validity. First one was done in November. We did take a look at 24-25 scheduling data during that trial. We didn't really see a lot of issues there, but we're not exactly certain what 25-26 will hold. We did have to escalate a scheduling timeline so that we had that data available for the implementation. Infinite Campus suggested that maybe we do sort of a mid between trial 2 and our actual implementation upload, and we have done some uploads for a few of the schools who have completed their scheduling. We're not seeing any issues currently, so we hope that we've mitigated that. We did have an issue initially too with the size of the files for our data, because we are a very large district and it's a lot of data for a lot of students. That was mitigated by changing the way we would present our data. All the other districts were actually had a job that they pulled the data. We are pulling our data and presenting it. The Infinite Campus team has been very pleased with that process and with the state of our data. The last thing we have here is our integration with existing systems. We do have a lot of ancillary things here in Wake. Student assignment, OASIS, we have some DEERS reporting. We also present a lot of data to third-party vendors for assessments and things like that. We have been doing lots of testing to prepare those files to get ready to share that data, as well as bring all our ancillary things back online. Here we talk a little bit about our trials that I spoke of just a few moments ago. We did have 2 trials. Our most recent one was April 14th. One of the things that was a big risk and a lot of cleanup for a lot of districts was around address validation. We were very fortunate in that we already managed those addresses, so we didn't have that lift, and our data was already pretty clean. June 13th, you see here on this slide, is the date that our data will be presented to Infinite Campus for the final conversion. We have been working a lot with various business owners through the district, as Michaela mentioned, to help us make key decisions around the functionality. There will be some things that are a little different because it's a different system, but we've worked very closely with people across the district to help us make those decisions for what's the most effective way that it'll work best for our students and our staff.
And as Sandy has alluded to, and I want to note that we do meet, Sandy and her core implementation team do meet with Infinite Campus on a weekly basis. So as we're having issues, we are able to resolve them in a pretty quick pace to make sure that we are on track for this project. As far as communication goes, there is a lot of information and there are a lot of partners that information needs to reach. So as we are communicating, we'll talk a bit about the Wake Connect page that we have set up for our internal staff members. But as you'll see, a lot of our groups have dedicated pages to house the information as it needs to reach them. We're communicating weekly, if not twice a week, in the principal's newsletter with the most up-to-date information about Infinite Campus, their training, what they need to know, and what they need to do with that information. Data managers are getting highly specialized, targeted communications, focusing on all of the things that they need to learn and know for day one. Teachers are receiving most of their communication through staff newsletter updates and through the in-person training that we'll talk about in a bit. A lot of these groups are receiving training virtually, in person. Yes, those are the two options. There's not a third option that I'm aware of just yet. We're working on it though. We're working on our Bluetooth sync. And families as well. So we are putting together a public-facing page for them, similar to the Power School page. This will have high-level information. I believe last week or the week before, they did receive their second reminder that the student information system is changing for the 25-26 school year. But as we get those resources, they will become available to parents and families. As mentioned, this is the Wake Connect page, the screenshot of the first page. I do encourage all of you to visit the page. There's a bunch of information. As we are creating resources, they are going directly onto this page. There is a resources page that is a bit of a catch-all, but again, principals have a dedicated page so they know exactly what they need to do and when, what is their highest priority for the next step. So it can be quick and efficient. Data managers also have a ton of information there. They've done a ton of data cleanup for us. They also get messaging in their weekly SIS newsletter. Sandy and her team host many a training. They host a noontime knowledge where data managers can come and ask specific questions. And then if you'll hear us talk a bit about this in a moment, but our gradebook contacts have been identified, at least 2 at each school, and they are supporting training with the digital learning team. So we'll talk about a bit about that now.
We've got a little information here around our training plan. Let me start by saying that Infinite Campus uses a flipped classroom model for their training for all of their customers. It is a tried and true method that they've used, and that's what they stick by. It entails various videos that you need to go and watch. So you're getting the data, getting the information yourself. Then they host an online virtual session for users to come and have any questions answered that they might have a little misunderstanding around the videos. Those virtual sessions are recorded and are also posted out on the Wake Connect site that Michaela just showed. The Campus Passport site that we mentioned in the implementation is where all those videos live. Whenever there's a training plan also posted on Wake Connect that has all of the different videos, and when you click, it takes you straight to the Campus Passport site so that you can then see that video. So we've tried to cut down on staff's ability to find that information. The second point you see here, Infinite Campus Professional Learning, we do have a dedicated Infinite Campus trainer. He has been with us. We've worked with him now for almost a year. And he leads all of our virtual sessions. We're in the third week of those sessions, I believe. We host somewhere between 4 and 5 a week for various user types. We try to send out reminders for staff to take a look at what's available. And again, those sessions are recorded and posted. The professional learning led in-house by our team. We are a strong team of 10 currently, I think. And we train the data managers, registrars, guidance techs. We also reach out and work with counselors, principals when asked. We have been leading the data managers in sessions in collaboration with the Department of Public Instruction. DPI we were very fortunate. They had a wake-focused data manager training 2 days where we could break our data managers up, and they actually had the opportunity to go to the Department of Public Instruction and have sessions with DPI trainers at no cost to the district. That was a couple of weeks ago. We do have sessions with them every Tuesday as well. The school-wide professional learning around the gradebook that Michaela mentioned, we did ask the principals to please designate a minimum of 2 gradebook contacts within their school. As many as they felt necessary, we would try to accommodate. We also, the DLCs have been working with those gradebook contacts and creating additional support documents to help with the training of the school staff. The goal was to have the gradebook contacts work with the administrators to plan time during their opening school sessions to train the staff, the teachers there. The training takes approximately an hour and a half. So they have been instrumental with that. Our support plan moving forward, as Michaela mentioned, we are in the throes, headed down to the wire. We have started a district call list that we will have, so we have particular points of contact that we can reach out to if we have issues within the district, that we can say, hey, I need you to help me communicate this, or how can we head this off. Our help desk tickets, our team is a little different in that our ShareWell help desk ticket system, our tickets come straight to us, so we do have that opportunity to know when things are trending, and we get to see that information a little faster. So we'll have some priority on those as well. Gradebook Contact Hub and Wake Connect, so we'll have resources for those questions. Campus Passport and User Guides, we'll have links to those that we can send out in tickets. When we've got a response, we can also say, hey, here, go take a look at this. This might help solidify this. And of course, proactive communication, we're making certain that we have regular updates, we check in with stakeholders, and we make certain that we get ahead of the game. Next steps. So we do have ongoing training for school staff and central service. It started again a few weeks ago in April. We have follow-up sessions that will go through the month of October. Master schedules, we have asked for schools to have those finalized by the 23rd. That is this Friday. So we are in the middle of making certain that we have helped those schools with any questions or issues they may have with those schedules for 25-26. You'll notice here that we do have student transfers paused and student enrollment paused. Those dates are from the 9th of July through July 1st for student transfers, and then June 13th through July 1st. One of the reasons for that pause is the online registration system and our production database. We are working with schools to make certain we provide, especially our year-round friends, that we provide lists of students. We're going to put up a hey, we're closed for right now, but leave your information and we're going to contact you whenever we've opened the system back up. And then we'll take that information and then share it out to the schools so they can get some sort of idea of how many parents they might have waiting. Power School goes dark June 26th. It is a state product. It goes down on the 26th. They will run the end-of-year processing on that, and we will receive our final copy that we will have here in-house. But we will not log on to Power School from that point forward. And of course, our go-live date is July 1st. I hope you're as excited as I am.
All right, thank you. Are there questions for the speakers? Dr. Ed?
Thank you so much, and thank you for thinking about the year-round schools, because oftentimes we forget about their timeline. Secondly, in the process, did you have any exchange with other, school systems in phase one to kind of learn from them how they've done things and what mistakes that they've made, things like that? And the third question is, any security measure concerns for this transfer of data, and also what can consumers do to increase our safety protocol?
So the question around other districts, DPI has a meeting, digital leaders meeting, that we attend at least every quarter. And one of the things we do there is work with those phase one districts. So we do have an opportunity to talk through things and ask questions. Johnston County, while it is smaller, they are a local neighbor, so we talk with them quite frequently. Cumberland County, and we have a close tie with DPI as well, so we're able to ask those questions. As far as security risk around the transfer of data, all of our files are uploaded to a secure shell there with Infinite Campus. They then take that data and roll it in. All of our, everybody knows about the recent horrible thing with Power School. We don't have any Social Security information in this system. So that's taken care of. Anything else? Historically, I don't know of an issue with Infinite Campus and breaches. Everything else we have in there would be mainly around student numbers, addresses, things like that. But there is no Social Security information being sent.
Thank you.
Just to add to that as well, we also engage with other districts outside of the state that were
Yes, we did.
equal to our size to kind of get an idea of how performance, a metric that we wanted to get an idea on. Clark County was one. They're actually, the student population there is a good bit bigger than we are. So we gained that data and information as well.
The Office of Student Assignment met with Clark County, Nevada to have some conversation around how they handle their lottery and their addressing and things like that.
Thank you. Mr. Hershey?
A couple questions. Is the go live date mandated by the state, and is our student enrollment and transfers paused intentionally until the go live date? Are they tied together, in other words?
The go-live date is mandated by the state in that they own the contract, and Power School goes dark, so then we have to bring up the new
We have
system.
a few day gap.
Correct.
And is that intentional on our end? Like we could go live on the 26th or 27th?
Well, we will actually receive the keys. That's the way Infinite Campus has phrased it. We will receive the keys to the system the 23rd of June.
Okay.
And our work at that time, my team will be diligently heads down, working to hook up everything we have to hook up, get files ready to go. And as soon as we know that everything's a go and we have the green light, then we will let staff back in. I hope that it's prior to July 1st, but the absolute deadline is July 1st.
The only other question I had is, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you said, I thought I heard you say that we pull data and present it as opposed to other school systems?
Because of our size, the way the state had implemented this process is they put a plug-in, an API into Power School that would run files and put them on a secure shell that the districts could then go in and take a look at. But because of our size and the different jobs that run at night, those files never completed for us. So we never got a full set of data. So the answer to that, and we're very fortunate, my team is amazing. They were able to take the technical scripts from that plug-in and to actually pull that data and create complete files and present them.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hershey. Ms. Mahaffey?
I just want to highlight because, and thank you for this is a huge lift on top of the work that you already are doing in this district. And knowing the work that will come for people who are unaware when they check their PowerSchool app for grades that it's not working anymore. My question is, not a question, but I was hoping Ms. Pulliam could highlight what was in a newsletter that was shared with families about enrollment and transfers and how that will impact families, because I think that is a huge part for families that are moving into the district during that time, being unable to enroll, and what her office is doing to mitigate that switch.
Thank you for giving us that opportunity. We did already put a first sort of heads up for our existing families, which candidly, most of them will be unaffected because they've already pre-registered, right? So this is a multi-pronged communication approach. We're also going to be putting banners on the websites, redirecting schools back to the main website with information to say, hey, this just right now, big event happening for us to make sure your assignments are clean and clear, we get everything correct, you don't have to do the work twice or so forth. We're going to just pause for a second, but please give us your information. So what will happen is they'll have a next action they can take. If they're curious, they can fill out a form. We're going to be very clear to not collect too much information to mislead families and make them believe that they've completed registration, but just enough that we have contact information, so if the site is able to go live prior to July 1, we can send them that notice, hey, it's back online, please go ahead and do your online registration work. In addition, as Sandy mentioned, it's particularly important for our year-round schools to just have a semblance of an idea of how many families might be out there coming to register, so we'll be able to parse out that list and get those to those data managers and principals so they can think about their staffing plan on the day that the system goes live.
Thank you so much.
All right, Ms. Caulfield?
I just wanted to ask a quick question about the seniors. And I'm sorry, I was like typing something else. I don't think that was what her question was, so I apologize for repeating it. But what are we doing for the seniors that are about to graduate? So the last class is June 13th. They'll need transcripts and all that for college. And then you said it's going dark on the 26th.
Mm-hmm.
So what will they do for that?
Excellent question.
And then going forward, too.
So I've had some conversation with DPI. CFNC will actually start to process, and I've received the confirmed date today, we'll start to process the final transcripts for seniors across the state on the 19th of June. Okay? So we will communicate out with schools that they need to have all of their seniors grades posted, rank run, everything tidy and ready. So when those final transcripts start to process, that information will be there. They will continue to process through CFNC until the 26th of June when the system goes dark. DPI, the actual contract and communication between the Student Information System and CFNC, that happens with DPI and CFNC. So once we're up, DPI will have some sync work that they have to do, as well as some additional final grades that they will import into the system. And once that's done, then they will hook CFNC back up, and any transcripts that have not yet processed will process at that time.
So just to be clear, once that's all said and done, will they be in Infinite Campus?
Yes, the seniors will be in Infinite Campus. We're actually converting all students who have been active at any time since 2013.
Good to know. Thank you.
All right. Any more questions about Infinite Campus? All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move into our last item on the work session agenda. We'll welcome Ms. Pulliam. And this is...
Follow-up to last work session.
That's right. We talked about some specific issues as we get ready for the reassignment plan, just about assignment in general. You all also might be familiar with a lot of pieces of legislation that have been moving, kind of asking questions or directed about student assignment and, families' options within the district. And so we thought it was important to address a few important concepts early to just help everyone's understanding, and then our ability as we go out as ambassadors of the district and sort of explain to members of the public, to lawmakers, to local government officials, why the assignment process works the way it does. So, Ms. Pulliam, with that introduction, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Hegarty, Vice Chair Swanson, Superintendent Taylor, and all of our board members for this opportunity. My usual partner is actually at his son's graduation, so he couldn't join us today. But again, as the chair mentioned, this is just a follow-up to our initial discussion that we had on May 6th, so this is not a planned conversation. This was an add-on based on your discussions at the table on May 6th. And we're here specifically to go over 3 core areas or 3 core topics. First, we'd like to hope by the end of this session that you'll have an opportunity to discuss at length how capping impacts our overflow schools. In addition, just a quick review of the short history of our K-3 class size legislation and how that impacts capacity across the district. And then a quick, just cursory review of why it is that we have base assignments for schools using student addresses. As you know, I like to remind you of our processes at any opportunity. So we do have basically a 6-step process that we follow. We are currently still in step 4, and this is just a continuation of that work. And as you'll recall, step 6 is ongoing from the last cycle, and you'll be hearing a presentation from Mr. Carroza early in June to tidy up that step. So again, here we are in step 4, reviewing with you your goals for the upcoming enrollment plan and taking a quick little aside to make sure you have the information that you need as we're preparing to bring you that initial draft. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take my opportunity to remind families to check out our website. It is constantly being updated. Most recently, we've been adding some summaries. From this morning, we've even had updates related to the recent public engagement events that we've had. We've got recordings posted now of the virtual sessions that have been hosted. And we're continuing to remind families that are interested in a deeper dive to volunteer and sign up for one of our focus groups. We're going to be reaching out to them as early as this Friday with some additional opportunities to help us learn more about the needs of families. So let's go ahead and tackle the first topic about the impacts of capping on designated overflow schools. As a reminder, this is usually considered step 5 in our process. You've already completed this for the previous cycle. We're now sort of using the information that you approved on February 7th to guide us as we're going into 25, 26 and thinking about this as we're preparing for 26, 27. We've not really called out this policy in recent meetings, so I just thought it would be helpful to let the community know and the board know you do have a policy specific to this process. It is embedded in 4150. It's section B. I like to highlight that it says temporary membership caps to remind you as a board that when you created this policy as an entity, the idea was to use it to address concerns in a temporary state. And I say that and you'll see why. There's also some additional language that sort of bolsters it to give you some timelines by which you need to do this. We meet these timelines within ease with the process that we follow. In addition, there are some directions for the superintendent to develop our rules and procedures so that once a cap is approved, we as staff know how to operationalize that. Some key terms, you saw these in the capping meeting that you had in February, but just as a reminder, a capped school is essentially, at the most simplistic level, a school that has been approved to stop enrolling students because they've exceeded a maximum capacity. The overflow school then is a school that the board designates to receive those students that can no longer enroll in their assigned cap school. And then we do see feeder pattern cap on 2 of our schools. That's Mills Park Middle and Apex Friendship High School, and we get clarifying questions on that, so I thought it was helpful to remind everyone that for those 2 schools, because the cohorts residing in their future cohorts can sometimes already be larger than what would fit in 6th or 9th grade, we can proactively start those wait lists early so that the longest-standing residents have the first opportunity at available seats.
And just real quick, does everyone understand that? Because it's a different concept. I know some of you will
I do
see
well.
it first very well.
If it's in your areas
The
of
Mills
Mills,
Park feeder pattern cap
Yeah.
precedes me.
But just for everybody else, so that when families are new to a district and don't understand, well, I moved right next to the school, that there is a wait list, and that wait list goes back for all the planning for the people that have lived there longer, right, and been in that neighborhood. And sometimes that comes up in some appeals, so I appreciate
and I
you
don't mean to be
explaining that.
alarmist, but a kindergartner could technically be on a feeder pattern cap list for one of those two schools. But if they move in as a kindergartner, by the time they become a sixth grader, the likelihood that that student would be capped out is not very high. It's going to be the students that are moving in later in that same cohort. But it is possible. So we don't alarm people. We don't share that information with them until they get to fifth grade or eighth grade. This is also information that was reviewed with you in February. I squished it onto a single slide. This is not my normal method, but I wanted to be brief on this topic. You've already reviewed this, but when the long-range planning team and our assignment planning team and school choice and planning come to you with a recommendation for a CAP school, it's because essentially the core facilities are overloaded and have either exceeded or are about to exceed their cap, and there's continued growth in their base attendance area that just cannot be managed with the available capacity at the school. In addition, there are limited solutions left on the table. Either it's not appropriate to convert the school to multi-track, or it's already multi-track. Perhaps there's no way to add additional trailers, plus per your current guidance, it's not really a path we're trying to follow. You know, adding more trailers to campus is not really where we're trying to go with our facilities planning. In addition, just thinking about the projected growth in the area. You heard from the first presentation about the Lighthouse, about the incredible rate of growth in the Nighttale, Wendell, and Zebulon area. You know, that's an example of what we have to think about if a school's already crowded. The capping impacts, just as a reminder, they have to accommodate the students that are already attending the school, and they have to accommodate the students that meet the capping regulations that might be coming in a future cohort. In addition, they have to be mindful, particularly for our elementary schools, that kindergarten and first grade have those. First floor is going to oversimplify it, but you understand there's some egress responsibilities for those rooms, and so if the building is designed in such a way, we can be restricted on which rooms can serve those two groups. We have to limit, we've been given guidance to limit use of trailers to serve those populations. We have to be thoughtful about the strain on the core facilities, and the list goes on. And so you're very familiar with these, I hope, because you've seen these most recently, but these are sort of what happens when you do make a decision to cap a school. Just as a quick review, this is the list of elementary schools that are capped, but just presented slightly differently. We've also identified for you the overflow schools, because that's really the point of this topic, is to talk about the overflow schools. So you can see in the column in the middle of each side that there's the designated overflow school for that campus. If it has 3 asterisks behind it, it means it's actually serving as an overflow for more than one school. So we actually have fewer overflow schools than cap schools, because we do have a couple of campuses that are serving that purpose for 2 cap schools. In addition, the column on the right of each half of this table lets you know the most recent cap date. And I say that for some of you that have been around or been in the community long enough, you might see, wait, that school was capped a little bit before the date I see here. It could have been capped, the cap was removed, and then it had to be re-implemented. So this is just the most recent cap date. On this list, I believe the longest standing cap is 2016. And remember, I remind you of the word temporary in your policy. At the middle school and high school level, we can drop all the way down to 2014 for that longest standing cap. And again, you'll see the 2 that are designated as feeder pattern cap schools that we've already discussed. So let's talk about the overflow schools. How is it when we come to you, this is just sort of the topic that doesn't get as much highlight when we're talking about capping, because we're bringing to you an operational concern about the overcrowding at a particular school. We maybe don't highlight as much that impact on the overflow school once it's designated. So in order to bring to you a recommendation for an overflow school, we have things we have to look at, just like we did for the cap schools. What's the class size legislation impact on that particular site with its current population, particularly, obviously, at the elementary level? Do they have sufficient available capacity to serve their own population and any growth that is projected in their own attendance area, as well as the additional students being sent to them as overflow from a cap school? And do they have sufficient space to deliver their programming effectively? You hear us talk about that in different ways in facilities as well as here, but being mindful that while taking a special and putting it on a cart may be a short-term resolution for a crowding issue, is that really how we want to provide the programming in that space long-term? The logistical considerations as well, thinking about the distance of the designated overflow school from the communities that will be ultimately sent to the campus, the availability of transportation resources to support that work, because we do offer and maintain district transportation for these families, because we basically treat the overflow as their base for the time they're being served at that school. We need to look at the projected enrollment. I mentioned that earlier about growth in the actual attendance area of the overflow school. What kind of capacity is being supported through trailers on that campus, and is that any type of concern for adding more students to the campus, as well as any potential impacts of future reassignments. If there's another new school opening in that area, or if we already had them in a long-range plan for other impacts. The right side of the screen really highlights then, now that we've authorized, we've recommended, and you've approved this particular school as an overflow school, what does the overflow school have to then prepare for? Obviously, they're going to accommodate the students that are already attending their school, and they don't have a cap, so they will continue to serve any student that moves into their attendance area. In addition, they need to accommodate any student that's sent to them on overflow. Once you set an overflow number, a value, that's the sort of not to exceed limit. So once a school hits that number, they start sending the next student or family to the overflow school. They have to support those families as they come. It's to honor the waitlist position for all of those that have already been overflowed. They have to manage their space use just like the previous screen that we looked at. They've got to think about floors, grade levels, use of trailers, co-teaching, whether or not we're converting program spaces to create classrooms. They have to think about all those same things that a CAP school does. Differently, they're getting a constant intake of new enrollments every week, every month, all throughout the school year, where once the CAP school hits its number, it stops taking new enrollments from that point forward. And that's just a constant fluctuation and change of not only my own base assignment students, but those overflow students as well. So it's just a little bit more turbulence, if you will.
And Ms. Bloom, just on that point, because that's really one of the key parts about the overflow schools, the staffing at the school is determined within the first few weeks, right, by the average ADM?
We use 20th day. I'm going to take a look at Dr. Gardner. 20th day enrollment is usually what we're using for head count, yes.
And do we have any sort of statistics or data about how many students might flow through per year, or is it just individual school by school?
It is school by school, region by region, because some of our CAP schools, as you'll know, aren't actively capping. I've talked about that a lot, the difference between the noun and the verb. Some of ours have a proactive or preemptive cap to prepare for growth that's coming, or to allow for settling of stability transfers after a recent reassignment. While others are actively capping, they've hit their maximum and they have continued growth in their base attendance area, and they're continuously actively capping out. Those that are in that second category, in the verb stage, if you will, can range from 10 to 20 over the course of a year, to 100 to 200 over the course of a year, depending on the region that they're serving. And so those that are in that second group are much more impacted by those constant changes in enrollments and that constant increase of enrollment over time.
And is there any recommendation or any remedy or anything that can bring stability to that?
So we'll talk through that when we get to your assignment recommendations, which is sort of what brought this forward. And the idea is, will reassignments help? The 25-26 enrollment plan involved a brand new school opening up in the Apex community, surrounded by several capped elementary schools. And so we made adjustments to base attendance areas at all three of those campuses to try to provide some relief. In other areas, if there's not a new school being constructed, then we're going to start looking for other schools that might have available space that could provide that relief to give us that long-term solution and get out of this temporary capping status. In others, we might be at a bit of an impasse. We've opened all the new schools. There are no schools with available capacity. We may have to continue to cap until in such a time as the capital improvement plan or future renovations add capacity to the region, because we know that that's the ultimate goal. The last straw, of course, would then be looking at any traditional schools that are in this state that might be better served by being multi-track year-round to get that 20 to 30% increase in capacity. And I am focusing on elementary schools because this is really where it is most problematic. Our middle schools, it's not quite as severe, and our high schools have largely been remedied by the opening of Felton Grove. I say largely, and that's temporary, right, at the moment. But and I'll show you why I'm talking about elementary schools in another slide. But the other thing I don't want to walk away from are the last two bullets because they're very nuanced, and I don't think the language on the slide really does service to the impact here. So the second to the last one that says disruption to established cohorts rosters during callback periods. As a school, you're constantly trying to use evidence-based instructional strategies. You're using assessments. However, the assessments I gave to the students in the fall don't belong to the students I'm serving in the spring. The assessments I gave to the students in the spring don't belong to the students I'm serving in the fall. So every time there's a callback period, which we know we need to do, if there's open seats at the CAP school, we want to give first dibs to those students that belong there, right? That's their address-based school. But it creates a constant change in membership. And so that's just something to be mindful of. And then the last one is that thinking of that same challenge, there's challenges related to master planning, making sure, you already sort of brought it forward, getting my staffing plan in place, and then growing by 50 or 100 students and having to adjust on the fly in the middle of a school year to accommodate that growth. We're managing, we're supporting, we have a wonderful support system for our schools, but they're just challenges that are faced by overflow schools that maybe aren't faced by other schools.
Ms. Mahaffey.
I just want to also say the impact to the overflow school is family engagement. If your student is there as a capped student, there's only so much that you want to invest in your time, whether it be to the PTA or if you're able to invest financially in that pay, because you know your kid may get called back. And you have some schools, like Mills Park for a while, wasn't able to call back any students, so they were spending 3 years at West Cary. But because there was a possibility that your kid could get called back, we didn't see. And I just want to highlight that as an example because Mr. Swanson feels that impact in his district when it comes to
and that is
our
our
middle school.
That is the middle school that's active. I mean, Apex Friendship Middle is as well, but I think that's the biggest example at the middle school level of where that is a challenge.
If I may, those families, when they do get called back, because the culture of West Cary is so inviting, they often do not go back. So that's a great thing.
Right.
Yes.
There is a chance of stability right there on that tail end. And similarly, because you're serving multiple communities, I just even think of a family night at a local fast food restaurant. Where do I do that? I have a community over here and a community over here. How do I engage both of my communities to build that sense of community when this community also belongs to a CAP school community? So again, I think that's why, in your wisdom, you labeled it temporary, with knowing that this isn't intended to be a long-term solution. It's just because of the rate of growth, and I'll explain on the next few slides how we got here. So if we're good on that topic? Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay. The next topic you asked us to just do a quick refresher on was the K-3 class size legislation and how that impacts capacity management. And so, again, this is not our policy. This is just legislative alignment for people who aren't familiar with the actual legislative code, but this is a North Carolina General Statute 115C-301, and it has a subsection, little lowercase c, that says maximum class size for kindergarten through third grade. This also has budget implications as well. That's not my role, but it fits in those same spaces. We talk about it a lot. This legislation essentially says that kindergarten classrooms should not have more than 18 students per one teacher, 16 students for first grade, 17 then for second and third grade. There's some wiggle room in the legislation that allows us to go over by as much as +3, but as a district, our average must be. And an individual classroom, under no uncertain terms, can ever go above that +3 without some sort of approved waiver from DPI, and those are limited and difficult to secure. So just by the numbers, I thought this would be the easiest, most simplistic way to talk through this. In 2017-18, we had started our work toward fully implementing the legislation, but hadn't turned the switch. So we were still reporting our capacity for our kindergarten, first, second, and third grade classrooms at 20 students per class. So by 2018-19, we did officially publicly start reporting those class size capacities at 18, 16, 17, and 17. You'll also see the adjustment that happened in 4th and 5th grade. We held to a 26 sort of maximum seat for 4th and 5th previously. We had to go with a more fluctuating adjustable scale in 4th and 5th to accommodate the need to take rooms from 4th and 5th to create classrooms for K1, 2, and 3. So if we look at by the numbers, on paper, our capacity report, some of you know it as the FUR, it is the Facility Utilization Report, in 2017-18 said that we had 113 elementary schools with 66,146 seats in total capacity in, sometimes we generically call it brick and mortar, but the core facility. And then 77,784 altogether with that plus the trailers that were in use for classroom spaces. So we call those capacity trailers, as a quick reminder. In 2018-19, when we officially started reporting it with the 18, 16, 17, 17 values and the fluctuating rates for 4th and 5th, we opened 2 new schools and had a reduction of 4,360 seats in our core facilities, 6,778 when you include the trailers, plus an additional loss of roughly 2,750 seats because of all of those program spaces that had to be converted to K1, 2, and 3 classrooms to accommodate all the overages in the buildings for the families that were already attending schools. In addition, you had to cap some schools, you had to block transfers into some schools, and we had to identify a couple of campuses to add trailers to. I'm not sure if any calendar conversions happened as a result of this. I'm looking to one of my partners, but I think they were probably discussed and kind of said, well, this is enough change. Let's hold off on that part. So that's the big number. I kind of focus on the 43, 66, 67, 78. So if I look at us going into next school year, and next school year we'll have a total of 10 new elementary schools since that time. Our core facility capacity is greater because we've followed that advice of building capacity into the school. So you'll see the differential between capacity and trailers is reduced. We have removed a significant number of trailers from our elementary school campuses since that time. But we're still at a loss of about 140 seats. So in 10 years, we've opened 10 schools. I checked with facilities. I believe we've completed 9 renovation projects. Now, this is a mixture of the 10 schools. Some are middle school, some are high school, like, to be fair. But as, no, I'm sorry, elementary, those are all, the 9 renovation projects could span across all the different grade levels, but we are still minus 140 in terms of total seats. So it's, how do we feel it? Obviously, the map on the left is the one with the most red. As a reminder for these maps, these are our projected crowding. You saw these a couple of weeks ago, I think with Mr. Feroza, and I believe I've shared them with you as well, to show that based on our new schools opening and our projected enrollment, based on the forecast that was done cooperatively with our partners, the schools that are in red are still projected to operate at or above 110% crowded. The orange are projected to operate between 100 and 110. The yellow, I believe, are 90 to 100, and then the white are below that. So I'll just highlight the elementary schools. As you can see, we have more overcrowded, overcapacity schools at this level, largely due to K-3 class size legislation, in addition to all the wonderful growth that's happening in the district. So I'm going to flip back real quick. So just kind of pay attention visually to where your reds and your oranges are, and then look at where your blue arrows are. So we're still experiencing crowding in the areas where we're projected to have continued growth. And at this point, the elementary phase of your building plan has started to taper. We have 1 new elementary school projected to open for 26-27, and that's Hilltop Leadmore Elementary. And we know that one will happen because it's already being used. And then the next ones don't come online until the very end of the capital improvement plan in like the 28, 29, 29, 30, 30, 31 sort of time frame. So we're going to have to make some recommendations to manage this growth and capacity need. So I'll pause there. Any questions about?
Well, I do want to say, well, the district has what's called targeted, I believe it's called targeted enrollment funding, so that money can be held for these schools that are getting the overflow because their ADM that's planned for their base area is going to be vastly different than what they see over the course of the year. That money is never enough to really cover what's there and what's coming. And so we see these overflow schools having to try to protect positions using targeted enrollment, whereas you may have a base school that all of a sudden a new subdivision comes up and we're like, oh, that's a lot. I remember White Oak had 19 kids enroll in a week, which is quite a bit. And so we're trying, and capping, of course, disrupts fewer students at the base area than a calendar change or a reassignment, but it is a continued challenge for the receiving school, the families that are involved with the capping, and the schools that are capped.
And if I may add on to that, the personnel piece is that you're also talking about receiving those funds weeks, if not months, after the start of the school year. So identifying high-quality staff at that part in the hiring cycle is even more challenging than it already is.
Mr. Hershey and then Dr. Ray.
I know we've had this come before us in the past, but I can't remember, so if you would refresh my memory. How early in the process do families start to find out that you're evaluating a school, that maybe this is going to need to be capped, or do we not really put that out as a way to warm people up that, hey?
Historically, we haven't capped any recently. Yay! The most recent cap that you've added on was for Apex Friendship Elementary, and that was the day the school opened. We started having conversations with the community because it opened so full, so fast, and the growth was so fast that by the time it opened in August, we were already contemplating a cap by that fall, and it had a cap in place by either that January or February. So that was the moment the need arose. Moving forward, I would like to follow now that we've sort of formalized our public engagement process, is to just get in front of families earlier, but my goal is to try to avoid bringing that recommendation to you at all, and to bring you other solutions to say that we realize it's unfavorable long-term, and that kind of gets to this slide here, but when you're ready.
That's a noble goal, but do we still include that in public engagement? Like, hey, this is sort of on the table. We don't want to have to do this. Just so...
Yes. For example, the recommendation that's been brought before you about Lake Myra Elementary during the public engagement session for that school potentially converting to track or multi-track from track 4, it was, hey, this allows you to stay at your school. This allows you to be able to stay at your school versus being capped. So if for some reason the board weren't to approve, that conversation's sort of been teased up a little bit.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ray.
Thank you. This has come to me on a couple of occasions, and trying to advise parents who may be wanting to move into a certain area.
Sure.
Knowing, for me, knowing that area would be a cap school. How should I inform them about their options? And then separately, there's we've had engagements with our BAC. I think you were there, where we talked about having updated information for our realtors and things like that, so that people are not going into it with outdated information.
Question number 1, we would advise you to contact the school itself, because that distinction between the noun and the verb is really important. It could be that you're moving into an area that's got a designated cap, yet they're still enrolling at the particular grade levels that you would need for your student, so feel free to make the decision that's best for your family. And then if they could say, well, we're getting kind of close, I can't promise anything, you haven't closed, you don't have an address, but know that we're at our limit or we're already capping. That way they're very much informed by whether or not they would actually have to participate and go to an overflow school. Separate from there, the schools are amazing at connecting them with either our office or staff within their building that can help families navigate that. So I really, really would just recommend contact the school you're looking at. They've got the best on-the-ground information to know whether or not they have room for that particular set of students. And as far as the realtors go, we try really hard. I'm going to look to Lisa and Corrali. We try really hard to advise all of our real estate agents, please just don't say anything to families. Refer them to our website or refer them to our office. And so I make that public service announcement here. I don't know if there's any other ways that we engage with realtors. If there's a forum, I don't want to misspeak.
Yeah, so every couple of years I meet with RAR, the Raleigh Association of Realtors. They've made changes in the past 5 years to reflect how the MLS reflects student to school assignments. And they, as part of their onboarding of new realtors, talk through this. No making promises, and pointing to information about school attendance. And making sure that they're communicating that all of our schools are excellent schools.
Thank you.
To kind of close this out, so what does that mean for assignment purposes? It means we are going to have to continue to use capping in some areas, and we're hoping not to bring you new recommendations, but if we do, policy's there to help us when we need it. We may need to continue to operate several of our schools on multi-track year-round to take advantage of that extra set of seats. We may need to recommend additional schools operate on that calendar to give us more seats in a region. We are going to have to continue to rely on our existing complement of trailers in some regions because we need those seats to serve those families. And we're going to continue to review attendance boundaries. You asked that question very pointedly to determine, can we use an assignment change to relieve this concern? And with your stability rules that you've been improving recently, it really helps families to have both choices. I can go ahead and take the new assignment with transportation or stay where I am without transportation for a period of time. Since the schools have been running at this level, they can handle it for another year or two while we're letting things stabilize. And then separately, the partners aren't here, I think they're at graduation as well, but there's continued pressure on our capital improvement budget to identify new schools versus repairing and renovating our existing assets. So that's what growth in class size legislation means for us as a district.
And so, Ms. Pulliam, with that, because of the external pressures, other graduations, and some other items tonight, what I'd like to do is if I could get you to postpone this last portion about having the structured base assignments, because that is important, and I think it's a good cap, but I don't want you to have to rush through it. Okay. So we'll move that to a future work session, just to come back on this one issue. Okay. But then as you have this information, if you take any time to go back and look at what Ms. Pulliam has presented, if you have any additional questions, if you don't mind emailing them to her directly, and she can incorporate that into our next session on this. Okay?
And then the next scheduled time that our team, scheduled time is June 3rd. Mr. Kurz will be bringing back a follow-up on the Lake Myra Elementary year-round conversion conversation and feedback from the public engagement that's been conducted since you last saw me.
Perfect. Well, Ms. Pulliam, thank you. You covered a lot in a short amount of time. I know we have a little bit to go, but I appreciate everything you presented today. At this time, what I'd like to do is entertain any motion. We'll close out our work session and entertain a motion to move into closed session.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Hershey, second from Vice Chair Swanson. All in favor of moving to closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll let the room clear and we'll go to closed session. We have a couple matters.